Hello and welcome to Network. My name is Spumelele Zondi with your technology and social media news. Remember that if you want to be a part of this technology conversation, you can find us on SABC Network. That's on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. It's newsnetwork at sabc.co.za on email. You can also use the hashtag SABC Network. Here's what's coming up in the program. Google is well underway with its second Launchpad Accelerator program. Startups with tech solutions that are less than 2 years old are receiving needed training. Education Tech Solutions will be on show at the second annual Fundi Education Forum. And our discussion is looking at Facebook's data breaches. Musa Kalenga from Bridge Labs is here for that one. Hello and thank you very much for joining us, Musa.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Musa, how much should we worry about this?
Well, like all things, we need to worry to the extent that we are involved in the platforms. And I think online platforms right now, data is a big thing for consumers to be aware of.
All right, sure. Keep it there. We'll have that discussion later in the program. But first, the technology and social media news. Now, Google has brought their developers Launchpad startups to Johannesburg. They are from all over the African continent and have tech solutions that are under 2 years old. The aim is to link them up with the ecosystem that can take their businesses further. This group is from all over Africa. They have tech solutions that they say can improve the way things work on the continent.
Farmers and agribusinesses use the platform to sell, buy agricultural inputs, keep their records, profile themselves on the same platform, and at the end of the day we're able to make analysis of their performance and come up with a profit and loss for them to know what better methods they can use to improve the next season.
So essentially what Pineapple is, it's a new and exciting peer-to-peer insurance application. It was born out of looking at the current insurance ecosystem and coming to the realization that there's currently a conflict between insured individuals and insurance companies, where on one side, the insurance company, in efforts of trying to eradicate all fraud, they tend to treat all the insured individuals as criminals. Therefore, you get scrutinized very much when you're trying to make a claim. The onboarding process is very onerous. And from the side of the insured individual, the onboarding process of getting a policy is very onerous. And when it actually comes to making a claim, there's a lot of friction in getting a claim made because the insurance company doesn't trust you. So in that whole process, there's a lot of value that's lost for the insured individual. So we're trying to eradicate those problems in insurance.
So with our smart meter, which we put on top of our cylinder, it's able to measure the gas that comes from your gas cylinder as you're cooking through the meter, measures how much gas you've used, and so you can be billed for $1 of gas, you can be billed for $10 of gas, depending really on how much you use. And how the customers pay, they pay via mobile money. In Kenya, mobile money is really big. M-Pesa, for example, is like...
Mintrix is a social video analytics platform. So basically what it does is it allows content publishers and brands and agencies to log into Mintrix. Then they basically tie in their Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram accounts, and they're able to view the performance of their videos on a single dashboard. They get over 90 metrics that determine tell them kind of the performance of the video from a consumption standpoint as well as from an online ad standpoint. They can then benchmark versus competition. They can compare Facebook videos to YouTube videos, for example. They can benchmark versus industry.
They're in Johannesburg as part of Google's Developers Launchpad Accelerator program.
The Launchpad connects early stage startups on the continent to the best of Google. So Google's network, Google's technology, Google's mentor network and mentor pool across the continent. And it's a program designed over 3 months to take early stage businesses from one stage of growth to another.
We've taken them to Nairobi, they spend time in Lagos. It makes sense to show them other parts of Africa and what people are doing and how people are growing businesses, and also to learn from the people in that ecosystem. So we had mentors like Rapalang Rabana, who came yesterday, Matsi Marise, who was also here yesterday, and they're talking to them about their experiences building companies in Africa, building companies in South Africa specifically.
The startups say they feel being here is definitely helping.
We wanted to learn from the best and brightest minds in the tech industry, and we felt as though the guys at Google have proven that they know how to take businesses from small scale to large scale, and that's why we applied to the program. And quite frankly, we've been extremely happy with the results, and our minds have been blown away with what we've learned and been exposed to during our time here.
Google accelerators helped us to identify the gaps that we need to correct to move faster. We have learned from different startups here in the different ecosystem. And then, we are very confident that by the end of this program, we shall be able to accelerate our growth 10 times.
This is the second group of the Google Developers Launchpad Accelerator program. Their graduation ceremony will be in Lagos, Nigeria in November. Now, innovators with some of the best tech education solutions will get to mingle with African heads of state, educators and business leaders at the second annual Fundi Education Forum at the end of the month. But before then, those innovators got to pitch their ideas at the Fundi Den. We went there to find out what this is about and what some of the tech education solutions are.
We believe that the solutions are actually sitting with young African innovators. So we went out to market and we found tens of innovators that are innovating amazing technology, amazing digitalization devices, tools, software, apps, you name it, for both primary and tertiary and higher education.
We have started using AR, augmented reality, to kind of project the whole science apparatus in front of the learner for them to do a science experiment. After realizing that not many science learners have an opportunity to go to a science lab. So we are trying to put all science experiments into one app. They just use the camera of the phone, and this cube to project a nice digital science apparatus on top of the table.
We focus into giving our kids, our learners, futuristic skills that are going to be needed in the future. So what we do is that we work with international companies, local companies. We ask them a simple question: what skills do you need today? What skills do you need in 20 years' time? What skills do you need in 30 years' time? We convert that information into learning paths. So I'm teaching a 2-year-old in Soweto, a 2-year-old in Tembisa, a 2-year-old in Soshanguve, what exactly Samsung is going to be needing in the coming 30 years.
We believe that the disruption of it is going to come enabled through technology.
Now, the Kwela app is a platform designed to simplify travel by helping commuters find their way through South Africa's hectic public transport system.
You can't really compare it to Uber, you can't compare it to Taxify because it's servicing a different market. And I think that's what makes it so exciting, is that Kwela was able to identify a gap and to service a commuter that's not being serviced currently. I think, we all want to save money. We don't always have the liberty and luxury to travel by Uber or Taxify. So what Kwela is able to do, even though you can't request a taxi directly from the app, you can save time.
So this is the rank list that's available on Kwela. Basically, when you go inside the app, it tells you exactly where you are. So that orange dot that you'll see is where we are exactly. And then it gives us all our taxi ranks that are close to that periphery. This industry is a gem. It's an actual jewel of South Africa. And how do we increase participation? And the first place that we start is by making it a more pleasant experience. If you're somewhere where you feel like if you go through anything, there's no recourse, there's no actual escalation point, you are very much discouraged from using it, and you use it out of obligation. But upon introducing just easier ways of relating with it, we are showing South Africans that this is a space for everyone. It's not one race, one demographic. It's really for everyone, and it's the most efficient mode of transport that there is in the country.
It is a SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za. After the break, we chat to those Facebook data breaches with Musa Kalenga. Stay with us. It is SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Thank you very much for being a part of our network tonight. Now, Facebook is now facing a privacy probe from the European Union. This is after the company's latest data breach. The security breach affected accounts of more than 50 million Facebook users. The folks at Facebook say they are continuing to take remedial action to mitigate the potential risk to users. This happens just months after another scandal where it was revealed that data that belongs to more than 87 million Facebook users and their friends could have been used by political consultancy firm Cambridge Analytica. Facebook says they first noticed the latest breach on September 16 when they realized that there was a sudden spike of activity on the platform. Musa Kalenga, who is CEO and founder of Bridge Labs, is in studio to discuss that further with me. Hello, and thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure, as always. Thank you for having me.
Now, Musa, how safe is our data on Facebook and other platforms for that matter?
It's a good question because I think the data that we have on these platforms is probably as safe as we make it. And what that means is effectively when we sign up to all these technologies and when we sign up to all these platforms, there's a process by which we are asked to indemnify and we are asked to give permission around what data is accessible and what data is not accessible. And the challenge is at the time that is happening, because consumers are probably quite excited about a new platform or a new space, we tend to take everything and we don't really read the detail around what we're actually agreeing to. And that's where typically the cracks start to show, is that people don't understand what they sign up to in the first place, and by the time they realize they've given a lot of access to parties and third parties about their data, often it's too late.
But some people often say that with certain platforms, if you choose not to click on that box, then you don't have full access to the platform.
Correct. That's very true, because I think the reality of the utility that you're getting, especially with social media, is that it actually relies on a lot of information to be able to make your experience better. So if you choose not to have certain things exposed or you choose not to have certain information made available, it could actually make your experience that much worse. So think about your friends and your network of people that you know. If you check a box to say that I do not want to hear from people that I know within my network, then you understand what your newsfeed is going to look like. It's going to be quite bland because you're not getting their information, which takes away from the experience. So yes, there's some boxes which left unchecked or decrease the utility, but at the end of the day, these platforms are set up to try and make sure that people keep coming back, people keep sharing, and people keep consuming them on their platform.
Do we know how much data Facebook would have on us?
It's a very difficult one to estimate. But if you think about it, I mean, theoretically speaking, most people have an average of 150 friends on Facebook and follow about 10 different brands. Take into consideration that 150 people post 10 times. That's 1,500 pieces of content every single day that people are sharing, that are available for you to have. And if you're interacting with it, you're creating additional information. So it's a phenomenal amount of information. It's a lot of data, and it also, that's separate from your behavioral data, the things that you're interacting with, the things that you're liking and you're posting about. So there is quite a lot of information available, and that's the reason why some of these issues around breaches and security are a big problem.
But without those breaches, it's also shared across platforms. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, for example.
Correct.
Instagram is owned by Facebook, for example.
Yeah. And I think the idea here is that they're trying to make sure that they're able to give you a pleasant experience that really comes back to this ability of keeping you within the platform. So building the trust within consumers that are on Facebook to be able to get them onto WhatsApp is a real big part of the business model. When Mark Zuckerberg was being interviewed about the first data breach, the first thing he said is that he's apologizing because of the breach in trust more than the breach in data, because when we're on these different platforms, we assume that they have our best interests at heart. So whether it's WhatsApp, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, consumers are there to be able to share and connect.
And do they have our best interests at heart?
I think 9 out of 10 times I would say they do, but by the very virtue of being a technology and innovation company, you have to push the boundaries. And I think that the blurry line is in pushing the boundaries, you're definitely going to do things for the first time, or encounter information that is not going to be shared for the first or the last time. But when you're doing that, you're at the edge of innovation. And I think that's the tricky thing about being in the shoes of a Facebook or a Google, is that for you to ultimately create a great user experience, it's going to mean you're going to need to do things for the first time and actually pioneer pioneer, and in so doing, the rules and the legislation may not be written yet. So how do you govern things, especially when we're going into the age of augmentation? How do you govern the way artificial intelligence makes suggestive commentary on your travel journey because it's integrated to your calendar on Google? That's valuable for me, because if my flight's going to be late, I'd love to know that. But are they going to be pushing the boundaries? They're pushing the boundaries. So to bring the value that we need as modern consumers, it does require a certain level of creative license, and I think that's where the governance needs to be more in place. And I think at the moment the big challenge is that legislation and compliance still have to catch up. And even in the discussions that were had around the data breaches for Facebook, it was quite clear that the commissioners and the inquirers actually also didn't quite know how to deal or attack with the subject matter, because it's the first time that they're encountering it.
And the thing is, you're sitting in South Africa. It's a company registered in America and Ireland.
Correct. So that's a further degree of removal from the process. And if I've been exposed to some of the compliance regulators in the South African space, they are light years behind where they should be in understanding the balance between consumer utility and data breaches, and as well as security and fake news. So there's a big discussion that needs to have, but I don't think currently they can have the right conversation on the correct level.
So as an individual, I find out that my data has been accessed by someone who shouldn't have, and they got it through Facebook. Is there any recourse?
There is recourse. So, in the settings that you have as a Facebook profile, you're actually able to manage quite a large degree of how information is accessed. You're able to deactivate apps. You're able to limit what those apps can access in terms of information. You're able to specify what information you want to share with them. So there's quite a bit that's available. The big thing is the education around that, is that most consumers don't know that. Most consumers, when they signed up for the first time, they never really went back to their settings unless something happened. So the ability for you to go back and actually reorganize the way your information is shared or the way you interact with the world or Facebook is something that has to happen because there's been an incident, as opposed to people doing it organically. And that's a big part of the way consumer education needs to change with these platforms. Now, who's responsible for that? You could argue that every consumer is responsible for their own information and data, but you could also argue because of the size of these organizations, they need to be meeting them halfway. But that's also one of those things that isn't legislated, and there isn't a particular way which we govern that. But ultimately, it's a combination of both.
Some people are saying let's be as extreme as to deleting our Facebook accounts.
Yeah, that campaign was interesting. It was, if you watch the what they call the monthly daily users on Facebook, there was a little bit of a dip, but I don't think it was quite as drastic as was expected. Coming back to the reality of, if you do delete your Facebook app, you might be locking yourself out of Uber, Airbnb, and all these other things that you actually also use. So the utility of the platform is a very difficult one to remove. I do believe, however, it's important that consumers are aware that they can delete their Facebook apps. I think from a consumer activism perspective, those kind of movements are key, because the moment someone feels as though they're not safe with their data and they don't have a choice, that's where I think there's a problem.
But as you say, that Facebook account links it to a whole lot of other things as well.
Correct.
All right, Sure. Musa Kalinga, thank you very much for joining us.
My pleasure.
All right, now AKA Beamworld is a new app that gives you information about rapper AKA. We went to the launch of this app.
It's AKA Beamworld app. It's my music, it's my life, it's behind the scenes of my entire brand. You can stream music on it, watch concerts on it, follow me behind the scenes, ask me anything, learn about the people that I work with, people around me, what I do in my spare time, what I do in my work time. Hey, you might even see this interview on the app, who knows?
Content is really king, and for our artists, we need to be starting to create our own local stories and our own local content so that we make sure that our people consume our content.
Technology is ahead of the curve in terms of what's possible. I think it's up to the artists to stay up to date with what's possible, to make use of these platforms to advance the art.
People are supposed to police then will investigate those that say they are corrupt.
SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. Now, Toyota has teamed up with SoftBank to create self-driving cars, and technology giants debate the future of artificial intelligence and job security in Silicon Valley. These are some of the stories that made tech headlines in the rest of the world.
Toyota Motor Corp and SoftBank Group Corp said on October 4th that they will team up to develop car services that rely on self-driving technology, such as hospital shuttles, as they envision a future in which fewer people drive their own vehicles.
Mobility. A new era of mobility will be created by partnering Toyota, known for its mobility, and SoftBank, which has an interest in AI.
Toyota, which has been mainly developing automated driving and artificial intelligence technologies in-house, expects the future will include convoys of shuttle bus-sized self-driving multi-purpose vehicle used, for instance, as pay-per-use mobile restaurants and hotels. And now in London. The House of Fine Art Gallery has made its entire £115 million art portfolio available to purchase with digital currencies like Bitcoin.
So if I came to the show tonight and I saw this Joseph Klebensky and I liked it, I could pay with cryptocurrency. The best thing about cryptocurrency is the speed of transaction. So I would come up to the piece, I would see it's a Joseph Klebensky, and if I wanted to buy it, I could look at the price tag and say it's £25,000, which is 5.02 Bitcoins. I would pull out my phone, open up my Bitcoin wallet, pull out the QR scanner, scan the QR code, pay 5.02 Bitcoins, hit send, and now I own the piece.
The exhibition runs from October 3rd to November 1st in London and October 25th to November 24th at the Los Angeles House of Fine Art Gallery. And now off we go to California. Silicon Valley just concluded the Robo Business 2018. This is where discussions and debates on how to integrate AI technologies with business, both safely and ethically, were held.
The world already has plenty of problems in it, right? And AI and robotics and machine learning technologies are just going to take the problems we already have and amplify them. Is this dangerous? Is this risky? And the answer is, I think, clearly yes.
The conference, which was held from September 25th to 27th, demonstrated how robots are increasingly working in factories and warehouses without taking any breaks.
Now, with the news that Zappa is planning to go continental, we are asking you on Twitter if you use mobile payment systems. Now, 30% of respondents say yes, 48% say no. We also heard earlier in the program that they're big in Kenya with M-Pesa there. The person said it's 90% in Kenya, but 20% ask whether what those are rather in South Africa, and there is 2% of respondents who say they don't have mobile phones. In South Africa, you don't have mobile phones? That's hard to believe. Now, that's all we have for you. Find us on SABC Network on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. News Network at sabc.co.za on email. We leave you with the visuals of an exhibition of a concept car at a Paris auto show. For me and the rest of the network team, have a good one. Bye-bye.